Scott, from a strategic standpoint, how can businesses approach narrowing their scope to manage costs more effectively?
Yeah,
If you can expound upon that more.
I think the strategic word, I think, is a good one because it implies that you're thinking about it up front and you're trying to envision the path to getting everything secure and the path to preparing for that assessment and laying out that roadmap. What's not explicit there, but I kind of want to make it so, is that management should be involved in this planning. And because it's going to affect cost, so management will need to be approved the cost, but it could affect workflow, meaning who has access to what, and could we narrow down who has access to what kinds of information? Where do we keep things? Do we want to physically segregate? There's a lot of business impact on this if you start to change the way people need to do their work, and if you start to change the technology and approach that you're using within your business. So I think when you're talking strategy, you should involve senior management. They may need to be brought up to speed. They may need a glossary of terms to follow along as these things are discussed. Be patient if you don't have a technical team, at the top of your organization. But I think involvement and participation is key. So that brings me to kind of 4 areas to consider in your strategy. One is priorities. Which areas are going to take the most work? Which areas are putting us at most risk? Which areas of our environment handle the most CUI or have the most activity or traffic on them, so that we can focus on the most critical things first. So I'm not necessarily thinking about it from a risk assessment point of view. That's a different way to kind of prioritize, but you could use that. But find a way to get the more important things, the more foundational things up front in your project. And you may find that alleviates some of the things you might need to do down the road because you've thought through the foundation. For example, are we going to secure our whole network? Are we going to do an on-premise enclave? Are we going to physically segregate this into a different part of our building? Are we going to put things in the cloud? A lot of these kind of decisions. Phased approach kind of follows along. Set some milestones and goals along the way, and then stop and reevaluate. So I wouldn't approve the whole budget up front. I wouldn't do that. I might have my tech team explain the things that they see us having to spend money on or the path we need to go forward. And then what's the first set of things we need to do? And then let's regroup once that's there, because we might now have different options available that we weren't considering up front. So the phased approach has you make some decisions as you go, and it might ultimately save on spending money on things you thought you needed, and then it turns out you don't need, but you plan to spend the money, or you spend all the money anyway. I don't know. I like to step at a time kind of an approach. Understand what do you have in place today that could suffice, that is capable. Rick brought up firewall. If your firewall was purchased from Best Buy, and I'm not trying to discourage you from going to Best Buy, or the Walmart aisle, back where the TVs are in Walmart, it probably needs to be upgraded. The firewall demands require a professional piece of equipment, not a commercial level piece of equipment. So as a manager, as a business owner, I can ask a simple question. What type of equipment do we have in place? Is it professional grade or is it commercial grade equipment? I don't even have to know the technologies to know we're going to have to go to that more expensive approach. But if we have a firewall that is professional grade that was purchased in the last year or two, I'm just generalizing here, it probably would work if it's configured properly. That's another piece of this. Just because you have the device doesn't mean it's working right. And there are settings and configurations and setup and all these things that someone knowledgeable could get into. I couldn't do it. Rick might be able to do it. I can't do it. And get the thing set up properly and manage it properly. So really understanding what you've already spent money on and see if you can leverage it. I think that's a smart thing to do. And so I guess what I'm saying is when the laundry list of things comes back and says, here's all the things we need to do, I would, as a business owner, be asking some questions. Why do we need to upgrade? What's wrong with the equipment we have? Not to be difficult or not to avoid meeting the requirements, but to avoid unnecessary expense.
Yeah.
I think that's important. And then finally, collaborating with other organizations, collaborating within your organization, see if putting two heads together comes up with a better idea than just, a small group. I think getting people involved and thinking through what the path forward is can ultimately help maybe narrow down the workflow, narrow down the people that need to be involved. Maybe there's an assumption, hey, we're primarily a defense-oriented business. We would have to have everybody involved. Well, do the people in the front office need to have access to these technical drawings, for example? Could you eliminate, somebody in the admin department from having to have access? Could that be where you start to draw some separation? But if you don't collaborate and get a lot of good information, you may not think of creative ways to cut down on expenses as you work through it. So I think I would approach it just like any other business problem that's complicated. Think about a new product launch, or think about getting into a new market, or bringing a new production line up and running. It's at that level of planning we're talking, that you've got to think it through and get the right people involved to make good decisions.
Yeah.
Thank you for watching this video to the end. This is part of a longer series on DFARS, NIST, and CMMC Compliance produced by Core Business Solutions. Please subscribe to this channel, like this video with a thumbs up, and click the bell to get notified when we drop a new video. Also, we'd appreciate it if you would share this video with your colleagues who need to stay up to speed on DFARS, NIST, and CMMC. Thank you, and we'll see you again in the next video.